Yet another political headache for our president. Robert Gates, the former defense secretary, has blasted him for the way he handled the war in Afghanistan.
And as scathing as Gates was towards Obama, he had even worse things to say about Vice President Biden, saying he's been wrong on key issues for more than 40 years. Ephraim Graham has that story.
He was a key player in some of President Obama's most important national security decisions. But in his new, soon-to-be-published book, Duty, Memoirs of a Secretary at War, former Defense Secretary Robert Gates has some harsh words for his commander-in-chief. Gates writes of everything from the war in Iraq to the death of Osama bin Laden and the escalation of the war in Afghanistan, criticizing Obama's leadership style and his commitment to the mission of his troops. Recalling a 2011 meeting on the Afghan war, Gates writes he realized the president doesn't trust his commander, can't stand Afghan President Hamid Karzai, doesn't believe in his own strategy, and doesn't consider the war to be his. For him, it's all about getting out. Gates also recounts a conversation he heard between the president and then Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. They were talking about their public statements criticizing President Bush's decision to send more troops into Iraq. According to Gates, Hillary told the president her opposition to the surge in Iraq had been political because she was facing him in the Iowa primary. President Obama conceded vaguely that opposition to the Iraq surge had been political. Gates says that hearing those admissions was both surprising and dismaying. The memoir is not all criticism, however. Gates calls President Obama a man of personal integrity. And he says the decision to go after Osama bin Laden was, quote, one of the most courageous decisions I had ever witnessed in the White House. Gates calls Vice President Joe Biden a man of integrity as well. But he also saved some of his harshest criticisms for the president's second in command, writing, quote, I think he has been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. The president disagrees, calling Biden, quote, one of the leading statesmen of his time. But the book certainly won't help the president politically, especially coming at a time when his poll numbers have already fallen to historic lows. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Thanks, Ephraim. This revelation is kind of shocking. You know, a president has the responsibility of sending young American men and women to their death in battle. That's an awesome responsibility. And to think that you do it half-heartedly, that your heart isn't in the cause, that you're sending them to battle you don't believe in, or worse than that, that you're making decisions because of politics, and only because of that, and unfortunately we know this is true, but to think that you have a potential president, Hillary Clinton, and a sitting president who said, well, we are opposed this war because of politics. We don't need to run a country that way. This is going to be very, very damaging to the president. I don't know if he can get away from that, but that's, you can imagine how many Gold Star mothers and fathers, you know, with dead sons will say, what are you doing? Your heart wasn't in it when you ordered my son to die. Well, once again, the president is in a fight with Congress, and John Jessup has that story from Washington.
Pat, President Obama says Congress should extend unemployment benefits because they can help create jobs. And he says those benefits help people who still haven't been able to find work.
Unemployment insurance has been a vital economic lifeline. For a lot of people, it's the only source of income they've got to support their families while they look for a new job. These aren't folks who are just sitting back, waiting for things to happen. They're out there actively looking for work. They desperately want work.
Republicans want to cut spending in other parts of the budget to pay for extending unemployment insurance. Some critics question the president's claim that unemployment benefits can help create jobs. Pat?
Question it too. They don't help create jobs. They just prolong joblessness for those who are on the dole. But the president seems to think that if people sign up for some government program that they have therefore gotten off the rolls and into the good place. But the good place isn't government subsidy, and that's what he wants. He wants people under the control of government. And therefore, the more people that are under the control of government, the better the socialist agenda turns out. But statistics seem to show that when you cut unemployment benefits and people really, honest to goodness, are faced with the stark reality of getting a job, but they find ways of getting employment in the private sector, it isn't being cold-hearted to say the government cannot afford to continue month after month, year after year, keeping people on the dole unemployment. You can't do that. Sooner or later, you have to say we rely on the private sector, then we have to create a climate in this country where people can be employed, where business is booming, where regulations are cut down and taxes are cut and people can go to work. That's what we need to do, but the president doesn't see it that way. John?
Pat, that blast of frigid weather is finally easing its grip.
It hurts. It hurts. Freezing. Freezing. Can't feel my face.
Numb. And I'm pregnant, so we're both numb.
Freezing air, blizzards, whipping winds, frozen roadways, all causing extremely dangerous driving conditions and leaving thousands of people stranded all over the country. More than 7,000 flights were canceled in the last 2 days. 3 Amtrak trains were stuck in snow, leaving more than 500 passengers stranded outside of Chicago for nearly 14 hours. Temperatures are expected to rise by the end of the week, but officials still urge people to stay indoors. Authorities in New Jersey are stepping up their efforts against sex trafficking ahead of next month's Super Bowl, where hundreds of thousands of fans are expected to head to the city of East Rutherford for the February 2nd game. State officials have set up new training for law enforcement, hospitality workers, airport employees, and others. The program will help identify signs of sex trafficking. Local churches are also working to bring attention to the issue. Many believe New Jersey will appeal to sex traffickers because of its highway system, proximity to New York City, and diverse population. Well, the DASH diet has been rated the best overall by U.S. News and World Report in its 4th annual rankings. A panel of health and nutrition experts surveyed 32 diets, putting the DASH diet in the top spot for the 4th year in a row. DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It's low in fat and cholesterol, focuses on fruits, vegetables, and low-fat or fat-free dairy. It includes less sugar and red meat than the typical American diet, and it's rich in whole grains, fish, poultry, beans, seeds, and nuts. You can find out more by going to cbnnews.com. And Pat, we know that you've been an ardent supporter of healthy living and healthy diet for years, including a hearty helping of nuts.
That's it, man. I'm telling you, that was my my breakfast today. Nuts, varied nuts, and berries, and a little bit of, well...
Do you have your orange juice?
No, I didn't have any orange. I had some cranberry juice.
When it is really cold out, I crave citrus.
Yeah.
I've got to have orange juice or grapefruit juice, and I had my egg.
Well, you have a smoothie.
My green smoothie. I was too lazy to make it this morning. It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is
it's
it?
a lot of chopping and you know all that.
Well,
but normally I
used
have
to,
that.
You know, when we were first down here, we didn't have much money, and there were guys, these small-time farmers were selling their produce on the side of the road, and you could buy yams, which are very nutritious, and kale by the bushel. And nobody thought much of kale. I used to love kale, and that kale is the in vegetable. They're kale chips and the kale smoothies.
It's the superfood now.
Oh man!
You know?
But yeah, we were onto that 40 years ago. But in any event,
A group of Satanists is moving forward with a proposal to place a satanic monument on the Oklahoma State House steps, and they've released a rendering of how it might look. The 7-foot statue depicts the goat-headed horn figure seen here. It also has other symbols often associated with the occult. The New York-based Satanic Temple just formally submitted their application to build the statue. They say it would serve to separate religion from superstition. The Satanic Temple says the decision to display a Ten Commandments monument at the State House opens the door for other monuments. Conservative leaders, though, in Oklahoma believe their request to build the statue will be denied. An Islamic court in Pakistan has decreed that blaspheming Muhammad should be punishable only by death. That's according to Morning Star News. The federal Shariat court oversees criminal courts that deal with cases punishable by Islamic law. Blaspheming Muhammad had previously been punished by life in prison or death, but the court recently ordered the government to remove the option of life in prison. Religious freedom experts say the development is troubling because it could lead to greater persecution of minorities and give more power to the Islamic court. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.